Hi, good morning. A very good morning to everyone. Colleagues from the Institute of Technical Education, the Polytechnics, University, Skill Future Singapore, as well as our partners from CIO, Academy Asia, and Pluralsight. Very welcome to the third Jobs and Skills Insight webinar, which will cover the topic journey from data to AI, the impact on jobs and skills of data professionals. I'm Siew Kim, the moderator for this third webinar. This webinar is organized by Skill Future Singapore together in partnership with CIO Academic Asia and Pluralsight. As some of you might have known, our partners, CIO Academic Asia brings together a community of technology and business leaders from across Asia to actively engage in thought leadership programs and initiatives that will enable better outcomes for digital transformation for organizations from different industries. Pluralsight is a technology skills platform that provides assessment, learning path, and courses authored by industry experts to help businesses and individual benchmark expertise across roles, speed out release cycles, and build reliable, secure products. It is a cooling morning after the rain, and we are honored to have the presence of guest speakers from CIO Academic Asia and Pluralsight today. First of all, we have Mr. Tian, who is the Deputy CEO at CIO Academic Asia. As Deputy CEO, Tian's role is both strategic and operational in engaging a community of some 15,000 digital leaders across ASEAN to navigate the many disruptions in the new digital landscape. Tian, would you like to say hello to the audience?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mia. Warm welcome, everyone. I'm very honored to be given this opportunity to come online to share a little bit of our thoughts and our insights into this area. Thank you very much.
Okay, right. Next is Mr. Damon Soards, who is the Enterprise Account Director with Pluralsight. Originally from the UK, Damon is based in Singapore and has been managing the region for over 2 years to help expedite the growth and adoption, democratizing technology skills for organizations at home and throughout the APEC. Damon, would you want to say hi? Damon, are you there?
I am here. Sorry, I was on mute. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, same as Tian, very honoured to be here and talk about the this journey from data to AI today. Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go further, allow me to share a few pointers and advice to ensure that everyone listening in to the webinar will get the most out of it. This session will last 40 minutes, of which Tian and Damon will take 20 minutes to cover the topic before we launch into the question and answer segment. The webinar will be recorded and published through SSG's My Skill Future portal and SSG's LinkedIn Insight portals, along with the slides, which will also be sent to you via email. So anyone planning to snap screen image of the slides, don't worry. Focus on the presentations and raise as many questions as you can. Throughout the session, your microphone will be muted to avoid electronic feedback and interference. We encourage you to post your questions pertaining to the topic by using the chat function, which can be found at the bottom of this page. You may also vote for questions which you are interested in too. We will try our best to address as many questions specific to the topic as possible within the limited time available. With that, let's begin the webinar. Okay, today's webinar topics is on the journey from data to AI, impact on jobs and skills of data professionals, with CIO Academic Asia and Pluralsight offering insights into the skill sets and varieties of roles performed by data professionals and how AI tools are making data management easier. The last few years have seen an increasing demand for data professionals across all industries. Who are the data professionals? What are their job roles and how different are these compared to other IT roles in the disrupted world? Are we seeing increasing demand in the use of data in businesses, both private and public organizations? How do you see the annual growth rates in terms of manpower needs? Let's welcome Tian from CIO Academy Asia and Damon from Pluralsight, who will enlighten us on these questions and more. To you, Tian and Damon.
Okay, thank you very much. So everyone, how are we going to run this presentation? You alternate between myself and Damon. I guess from my accent, you know who will be speaking, so you'll solve the issues there. So we'll go ahead. It's a big topic, data to AI, and I think you know, even an hour, even half a day, it will not do justice. But we hope to summarize this for you. So very quickly, just to put everything in context itself, we put out some statistics. You can see IDC forecasts a tenfold increase of worldwide data by 2025. I mean, that's a very big influx of data, as we know from many sources. Data-driven companies treat their data as corporate assets. You heard of the saying, data is the new gold, new oil, and so forth. And actively look at ways to how they can turn into competitive advantage to give them better business insights to reach better business outcomes. So big data, something that's not new. We've heard of this word quite some while ago. It contains a great variety. It's coming in variety, it's coming in volumes, and what's important, especially, is in velocity. You look at companies like Grab and Gojek and all these things, it's not the amount of data they're concerned about, it's the velocity that they can come in and interpret it. And they can use to create better customer outcomes, you know. Without big data, analytics companies are literally blind because the Excel spreadsheet doesn't help you interpret data anymore. It goes beyond that because of the velocity itself. Change, please. The future trend, future employees, therefore, as employees itself, generally we are unprepared to deal with data. And because of not only the onslaught, the accelerated way, but in the way we are taught to also understand data. I've always used this, that we have been taught to understand data by two axes, X and Y, thanks to Excel. But today, data is multidimensional and it comes from various sources. So we have to look at that. The one-shot investment in reskilling will not be sufficient because of the change, because of the proliferation. And we use this word data science profession in a very large scheme. So maintaining your skill sets relevant is ever critical itself. Change, please. This is just a snapshot. It's a little bit small on the left, you can see, but these are a report from Burning Glass. Just to give you the idea of what the skills most in demand. This is quite a recent report in the past 10 months or so. All right, change, please. Okay, Damon, please.
Thanks, Katie. So here we taking on from what Katie was just talking about there, the skills that are in demand today. One thing that you can expect in the future, or from today and into the future, I understand the audience here are sort of higher education. So by the time you get into a job, regardless of that discipline, you know, you might move into, I don't know, whatever it's going to be, marketing or finance or legal, whatever that job is going to be, you will be expected to be using or touching or managing data to some degree. So we've kind of like boiled it down to 3 categories here in terms of your role going forward. And those 3 categories are, you're either creating data, so you might be working in a technology-driven role and, you know, actually actively creating data, or you might be a manager of a team, or, you know, your role there is therefore sort of you're managing data as opposed to creating the data. Or you might be that person on the other side who's sitting there kind of analyzing and sharing the data out. Now, there are other roles within that, but we just wanted to sort of, for the time we have today, just boil down to sort of the 3 high level type of roles you can expect kind of going forward. Everybody's going to be touching data in some way from now on. And I have a sort of small example to share. If you look at, and this is not private information, if you could read up, you look at DBS Bank and what they're doing with data, kind of like they're trailblazers in data. It's exceptional, really, when you think they've got 25,000 employees thereabouts, and they're kind of making everybody a data steward to some degree. So you're either, again, you're creating that data, you're touching it, you're managing the data, or you're in it, you're analyzing, your storytelling that data. And then let's just have a look. So we look at these roles. I gave you just a couple of roles shared with you, just marketing or finance or even legal. If you're at university now, or school, university, and you're moving into the workplace, and maybe your discipline is marketing or finance or legal, we just brought up a snapshot of some of the skills that are needed today. So this is like today. This is not next year or the year after. And aside from your main your learning discipline of marketing and the skills needed to be a marketer, you're going to look at these skills that have just flashed up here on screen. So some of these you may not know, or you may not understand, or may not be aware of yet. Okay, but these are some of the skills that are being used today as a marketing professional, and all of these skills are tech skills. Okay, these are not other skills, off skills, communication skills, soft skills. These are just tech skills, and they make up a large proportion of a marketeer's role today. So Tableau for data, HTML or HTML5 for CSS, JavaScript like JS. They sort of your coding skills, and HubSpot for, again, more analysis and campaign data management. Google Analytics, like a key one for the sort of marketing campaigns. All of this is technology, all tech skills needed to support the underlying role of marketing. I'm not going to go into all of these, but finance, some of this may be completely foreign to you, but these are the skills that underline finance. So once finance professionals used to, use Excel spreadsheets, nowadays, well, they still use Excel spreadsheets, but that's certainly shifting, and it's moving towards these tech skills. And within legal, when you look at the jobs of somebody like a lawyer in an organization, suddenly they need to understand all the implications of cloud-based computing. They need to understand what agile means to the organization, and how processes are going to change within contracts. They need to understand blockchain, Bitcoin, everything. Security is changing constantly. So there's all these policies and technology changes that are being implemented within an organization that affects these functional roles. And these roles, I've just picked out these three, but I mean, it's literally affecting every functional role across an organization.
Okay, thank you. Just to pick up a little bit on what Damon said, what is actually facing the technology industry now is the proliferation of skills, proliferation of products and services, and proliferation of skills right into the roles itself. So as you can see, the roles would require a myriad of skills depending on the industry you're in, depending also on the vertical in the domain you're in, and so forth. So when we look into data to AI, it is a very long journey, but it doesn't mean when I get into data, data scientist is a final profession, or an AI specialist is a final profession. But within it, there are a lot of opportunities to identify roles, to identify your own learning and career pathways. So this is just a snapshot, and what I'm going to run through in the next couple of slides, just to give you an example. And this is from a practitioner standpoint. You can find all these words and so forth within the books, but this is how a practitioner in the area of data science and so forth have actually experienced. So there are a couple of blocks in the journey from data to AI. I mean, we look at data management, business intelligence, business analytics, and artificial intelligence. These are just islands along the way. So next, please. Okay, let me just do a little bit and expand a little bit of data management. Data management, if you do not manage data, you don't collect your data in the right way and so forth, you don't protect it, forget about it. You're not into data, you run to other issues itself. So basically it's the admin process. You acquire, validate, store, protect, and then you process the data. And then the whole idea is that data where it's residing person makes no sense. It must be accessible to everyone. The reliability, the timeliness, as I already said, for the users. And then keeping in mind now this whole issue about GDPR, PDPA, governance, privacy, and as well as security. And organizations and enterprises are constantly making use of big data to do decisions, understand how they can make their consumer journey a little bit more palatable. And then opportunities also for reinventing new business operating models. And this area, I've already literacy, governance, management, data quality, as well as, let's not forget the very basic, data must be cleansed before you can process it. So garbage in, garbage out, that's the fact of life. And the roles within it, you have data engineers, machine learning, data analysts, and data scientists. Next, please, Damon. We move from the block from data management into the area where we broadly classify it as data intelligence. And this is where the tech-driven process is. And then it will present actionable information that will help people. So tools and applications are, you collect data from internal systems, external systems, prepare for an analysis. You develop and run queries against data, create reports, dashboards, data virtualization, and you make those results available in a form and format that corporate decision makers can digest well, as well as anybody who handles data. And the roles here involves, you generally group them as what we call data analysts in an organization. Okay, next please, business analytics. All right, here what happens is in the methodology is iterative. You go into the exploration of the organization's data with an emphasis on statistical analysis. You cannot have data without any statistical analysis. And in that, we mean regression, optimization, clustering, decision trees, and so forth. And companies use them to make data-driven decisions. I think this phrase itself, we've heard it more than once, but in our engagement with our community, I think it's also a motherhood statement. There are organizations that use the word data-driven organizations, but sometimes they're just using it because they got a bunch of data, they don't understand it. So this is where the criticality of data maturity and the understanding of how you manage data is very important to an organization. And now, of course, anything depends on what you ingest. If the ingest of the data, the quality isn't good, you get rubbish coming out, Then on top of that, you need your analysts not to understand the technologies so you can manipulate the data, but also understand the business. And then as well as, an organization needs to, at the very highest level, be committed to understand, to say, we're going to use data and we're going to use it to actually allow us how we and look at opportunities and make decisions of it. And then again here, it is all about machine learning and direction patterns. So the roles here coming out, also similar, data analysts, you can call them data scientists, also machine experts, learning experts. The next one, please. And of course, we reach into this holy grail, this place called artificial intelligence. We've heard it a lot. We've seen it a lot in Hollywood movies also. This is an area of computer science where it emphasizes the creation of intelligent machine. A lot of times through machine learning, you build the logic and then you let the machine run it. Key areas here and activities we've seen happening in the industry, you have speech recognition, learning, planning, and problem solving, object recognition too. And it provides better decision making. And there are several aspects of it in terms of the levels, narrow to general intelligence and super intelligence. And the area involves reinforcement, knowledge graphs, reasoning methods, computational complexity, etc., and so forth. And of course, the roles there are what we call AI scientists or AI engineers. Let's also look at this AI in its larger context. Why you need to build AI around it is also due to the volume of data today, and you need big computing power. You need big storage and need bandwidth to allow you to actually analyze and manage this. So AI is a lot of times really developing logic where the human brains can't process fast enough due to the pace and volume. AI comes in and the algorithm helps you to sort of manage that. And over time, there's a opportunity to train those machines and so forth, so that there's iterative process in terms of the development itself. Okay, next, please.
So, I mean, on that note, on Katie's point around AI, the goal here, and when we look at the impact, the goal here is not to, let's create as much artificial intelligence as we can to, replace the human race. Okay, so that's obviously not the goal. So the reason we need to upskill and keep our tech skills sharp, because it's constantly moving. It's moving so fast. Majority of organizations cannot keep up at the pace of change. So it's our estimate that 50% of tech skills today will be obsolete in 2 years. So you might be wondering what that means for you as a learner. Okay, and if you think let's say you're 10 years old, you're at school, most of the skills that you're learning in school today will be irrelevant by the time those 10-year-olds hit the workplace, like completely irrelevant. In fact, most of the skills we don't even know of yet that will be needed by the time those 10-year-olds hit the workplace. In terms of you guys, or I say you guys, I'm just talking loosely, like you might be a graduate or, a couple of years into your role, or whatever it might be. The need to keep skilled up is obviously of most importance. Most of the skills you have today, for sure, will be changing over the next couple of years, and you'll see that change when you're obviously, if you're in the workplace already, you'll already see, you'll be experiencing that change. With Pluralsight, you have the opportunity to kind of manage that transition, that change, and keep upskilled. So, as was mentioned earlier, the platform itself is full of content courses. You've got hands-on labs across, data, mobile security, kind of content, and the ability to kind of get yourself assessed and keep yourself current, relevant across these domains and these different changing technologies. When you look at machine learning, generally, machine learning, AI skills, and this is looking at a real general sweep of the marketplace today. And as I keep saying, this is today, this is not next year, right? And the year after, this is a snapshot of today. These are some of the skills in the area of AI, machine learning, that are in demand. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not have a clue, or I don't know. But you can go and take a look at these. You can check this out on Pluralsight or Google it, or go to YouTube. You can check out some of these titles if you're interested to know more. In terms of the role itself, when we look at roles and skill sets, if you look at the umbrella term of data professional or data scientist, the skill sets are very different across an organization. So you could go and qualify, you could go and take a degree, for example, in data science, right? But that would change dependent on the organization that you join and the skill sets that are needed. It's very broad. It's a broad set of skills needed. So my previous slide, if you wanted to just skill up at a general level, you could do that and have yourself open to lots of opportunity across different organizations. But when you hit an organization, they're going to have their own tech stacks that they'll work towards. They'll have their own process and their own complete agenda, their own business goals. So and that's going to be very dependent on the skill sets that are needed within the organization. So, for example, if you join a company and they have a preference for AWS, their cloud strategy is AWS, and nothing else, then your skill sets as a data professional are going to be skewed towards that AWS agenda. And you see here on my slide that some of those skills: AWS machine learning, everything's AWS, application development, databases, storage. That's the focus. Now there will be optional skills needed on top of that, will be more generic. But at a high level, these are the key ones needed if you were if you were considered to be a machine learning AI developer using AWS services. And then you have, jumping down one, data analyst. So as a data analyst aligned to Microsoft, okay? So big competitor, AWS and Microsoft. So if you're aligned to Microsoft, then your tech stack is going to be completely different. And you can see here the requirements, the skills needed under the data analyst role, okay? And then dropping down again, data scientist, it's quite a generic one. It's not aligning to any particular technology. And some of those are actually on my previous slide, some of the skills needed. So you can see actually within data, the skill sets are very broad, and it's not one, it's not one whole, for everything. It's going to be a diverse set of skills needed. So I just wanted to, just articulate the point that it's a very, there's a lot of skills needed. They're changing all the time. Technology is moving exceedingly fast. And actually, Katie, I'll let you wrap up. But the point is, on Pluralsight, is we have a platform with CI Academy that would enable an organization to keep upskilled. And you feel free to go and explore and check out some of these tech skills needed, which will have impact on your career either today or tomorrow or very, very soon when you get into the workplace.
Great. Thanks, Damon. I think what we've tried to present in the past 20 minutes or so is to give you a sense and a dipstick into understanding the pace of change that's happening in the industry today, and where you heard of this word digitization and so forth. It's becoming very pervasive. Earlier this year, around June itself, Minister Ishwaran created a new stat board called Digital Industry Singapore, DISG. And basically, in that particular announcement, when they formed this board itself, they've said there will be 10,000 new IT jobs expected over the next 3 years. And these are new IT jobs. These are not jobs that you currently have today in your IT environment. So what that means is there's a whole lot of products and services that I said, is going through this range of proliferation. Back in, if I remembered correctly, 2004, 2005, when AWS first came out, it said everybody's going to use web services. That will be the de facto methods where your programs, your applications will communicate. We were all scratching our head and said, Amazon Web Services, this is a e-commerce bookshop. What are they doing with web services? Look at today itself and look at the cloud, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, Oracle. I mean, you're going to see this whole lot. None of these cloud platforms are totally compatible today, although they are trying. And then you're going to hear things like multi-cloud, hybrid cloud architecture. What that means, every time something happens like that, think of the value chain behind it. All the skill sets will change. So while you are maybe working for a company that is using AWS, you move to a company like Google Cloud, you get exposed to different things. You get exposed to Kubernetes and so forth, So these are the challenges that we have today, and it's moving extremely fast. Underlying it, underpinning it, you can't get away from data. If you want digitalization, you can't get away from data. The challenge then is data now not only comes from internal within the organization, it's also come from external sources. It used to be when I ran an organization, and it tells you how old I am. We look at transactional data, things coming out of point of sales, our accounting, our revenues, our operating costs itself. But today, when you run an organization, you're sourcing data from externally. Think about how much data has impacted our life. Think of my favorite pastime over the weekends, Netflix. Today, Netflix are actually consuming the data of the shows that I watch, the genre and so forth. And each time I come up, they say, oh, because you like love story, it gives you all the love story. not necessarily love story, but I'm just giving an example. They do that. And what they are doing is that they are cutting my time from running a catalog of thousands and thousands of films, but filtering out the right ones for me. And what they are doing on the back end is data. So a company like Netflix, where you say, oh yeah, we are in the media side, we provide films, they're actually a data company because they're consuming the data, they're understanding what my preference is, and each time I get in there, it sources gives a preference. Same with any of these interactions you have with most companies that are on, whether online, offline, and so forth. So this is the key. So I will not go on further, but I think you get the point. It is going to be large, and the roles will change. The roles of, let's say, a business data analyst today will be very different 3-4 years down the road. And the reason behind that is the proliferation of the technologies that are coming, in between that. So we have to be constantly aware. And if you're in the tech sector, especially students in Asia and so forth, you have to embrace a learner's mindset throughout your career. If you want to remain in tech and you want to remain relevant, you have to do that, because unless you are able to harness that, you're gonna there'll be gaps. There'll be gaps within your career path itself. Okay, I think we are probably moving now to some question and answers. Misha?
Okay, thank you, Tian and Damon, for your presentation on Journey from Data to AI, Impact on Job and Skills of Data Professionals. At this moment, we are starting to look at questions coming in even before the presentation ends. But okay, so let's kick off the question and answer segment where Tian and Damon are standing ready to answer questions specific to the topic. But before we identify the first questions, I would like to take this opportunity to fire off the first question to ask Tian and Damon this. Though the last few years have seen an increasing demand for data professionals across all industry, at the same time, we observe more turnkey enterprise data solutions are mushroomming. Do you see that data professional roles will be more commoners, i.e., become common tasks to be done by everyday workers rather than helmed by a few specially trained individuals?
You want to take that first, Damon? Or?
Yeah, sure. I can have a go. So, yeah, mushrooming is a good term, a good word for that, because that's exactly what's happening, or at least from where I sit and what I see. I mean, that DBS example I gave earlier about their transformation, and it's very much they see themselves as a tech company, right? They're not a bank; they're a tech company that happens to do banking. It's a bit like Amazon, who, when they started out, they could have been anything. They were selling books, right? But they could have been selling like anything when they started out. But they're not a book company. They're a tech company, and their focus is 100% on data. If you look at when you do a search on Amazon, you look at all the recommendations that come to you, or it's all the deep learning, it's all algorithm, it's all driven to sell you more. Okay, and that doesn't happen by accident. It's all data, lots and lots and lots and lots of data that's happening on the back end. So when I just to explain my role, I sit across. I have a bird's eye view of thousands of companies globally, and when we look at the patterns of skills needed over, say, a period of time, we are a data company in effect. We have a lot of data, and when we look at the data, what's trending in certain skill sets or roles or industries or even geographies, we can see clear patterns. Now, data is not like 100% right now. Not everybody is trying to be a data scientist, not every organization, but you can see the transition happening, and you can see the move from just a couple of years ago where it was, bubbling along, to now there's a clear trajectory of interest in data, because largely they're looking. And I saw a question pop up actually on the chat here about can you train which is kind of related to this question, but can you skill up someone who knows nothing about data into a data professional? And the quick answer to that question is absolutely yes, because that's what organizations are doing. There's a shallow pool of resources, not just in Singapore, but in other geographies as well, for data professionals, data scientists, and also they're very, very expensive. So how do you train up a workforce in data to understand data across different levels? And they're the pathways an organization needs to sit down and figure out and work towards, because you don't need everybody to be a data scientist. You just need you need levels. So that first level could be just somebody just needs to understand the very basics of data handling, cleansing data, data management, whatever it might be. And then those tiers kind of move up until you hit the sort of data scientist level. So yeah, I think I've kind of answered the question. So
Yep.
yes, mushrooming for sure across in very different ways.
Yeah, I think Damon answered it fully. I just wanted to add, I think long before the word data scientist came about and so forth, we already had analysts in the business. Whether the analyst belongs to the marketing department, whether it belongs to the finance department, or it belongs to the supply chain department and so forth, there were analysts. And what they were using is actually analyzing data. And so the whole idea about data it's not a new concept. It's maybe used the word mushrooming, and so it's proliferated. The volume has increased, the pace has also increased, and depending on the timeliness of your data and the insights you get from it, there are certainly business opportunities and advantages that a business can actually develop over it. How do you do that within an organization where you have people of disparate roles and disparate skills? Is to underline them with very basic knowledge of understanding data. Similarly, into the organization, if you take it years back and so forth, you go in there, you must have some level of mathematics. You know, if you don't have mathematics, you can't add, you can't subtract, you can't divide, you can't subtract. So in some ways now, what we believe is data literacy as the baseline. It must run across everybody in the organization, because everybody touches data. Unless you can tell me the individual within the organization function doesn't touch data, that's fine. There's no need for the literacy. So it's becoming the new language, the new necessary. So I hope this gives a context. And of course, within it, there's a lot of roles and there's a lot of profession you can develop out of it. And as Damon said correctly, not every organization, would have everyone as a data scientist. As long as you touch data, you need to understand and have some data literacy, right down to the point of the source of it, cleansing, right down to the management and the interpretation of it. Thank you.
Okay, so now we shall take some of the questions. One of the questions from Trina Tan. If all skills related to tech and management of data will be out of date in 10 years, how do we then prepare our students and staff for the future? So maybe...
Okay. I'll take a quick 5 minutes, 2-minute shot at it, and I will leave it to Damon, because this is really up what Pluralsight has and Pluralsight is offering can actually do. I do not know whether you caught the word learner's mindset that I touched upon during my presentation. I think it's very critical today as a mindset. We have to create this idea of a learner's mindset. What a learner's mindset is, as long as we're willing to learn, we can always adapt to any situation and we can get an outcome that we want. Long before, we were all educated and we were trying to strive for undergrad degree, a master's degree, and so forth. That's great. But in the academia that we have today and the system that we have today, we provide a lot of knowledge. So I may come out, graduate as an economist. I've got a lot of knowledge around econometrics and so forth, urban planning or whatever. Those are knowledge. But how is it applied eventually to the job that I do? I have to create a learner's mindset, because that's when I pick up the skills. It is actually on job that you pick up the skills that you can apply some of the knowledge that you learn and so forth. And because of the pace and of change in the technology industry, especially in terms of just programming language and coding language, you take a look how many coding languages there are. You take a look at open source. As I speak now, libraries are being changed, being updated. If you're in the tech industry, you need to create this mindset. And this is one way where you continuously learn. I think this concept of continuous learning, continuous upgrading, and so forth It's not new. It's been taught to us. It's spoken at every big conferences by ministers and so forth. But we have to embrace it. Unless we embrace it, we put it into as part of our behavior, it'll have a challenge. Damon, to you, please.
So yeah, just to echo all of that, agreed. Just to add 2 points to the question, the organisations that we go we support, and bear in mind we're focused very much on the technology people, which is now slowly expanding across different corporate functions who you need to understand technology. But the people we speak with, they don't talk about 10 years. 10 years is something you would talk about 5 years ago. What's your 5-year, 10-year strategy? Right? Okay, that doesn't exist anymore. So the people we talk to, it's about 2 years. It's even a year. It's what's the strategy over the next year, next 18 months, next 2 years max? There is no strategy for 10 years because the rate of the change, the pace of change that's happening, you can't predict what 10 years is going to look like. But what you can do, you can create, if you're an organizational leader, you can create the learner's mindset within the organization, that kind of behavioral change towards self-directed learning. Because the reality is, if you're not a self-directed learner today, and you're still relying on, your HR leaders to, figure out your learning needs and send you on to training courses, if you're still in that mindset, then you won't last the journey anyway. There won't be a job for you in 10 years. You'll be doing something else. So it's it's self-directed learning mindset. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that's what's going to prepare your workforce for the next 5-10 years. That's the thing. And as a result of that, technologies are going to come and go, and not just technologies, but processes, languages, systems. Everything's going to be changing, and the only way you can prepare for that is the mindset.
Okay. The next question, which also have the highest vote, is by Dr. Tian. How is the government working with companies like CIO Academy Asia and Pluralsight to supply the pipeline demanded by the industry for machine learning and artificial intelligence talents quickly? Maybe for this one, I'll take it on behalf of SSG. Okay, so for SSG, we are now working with various partners, for example, CIO Academy Asia and Pluralsight, to look at in terms of the job and skills insights, meaning, for example, what is the, in terms of emerging trends or emerging skills that is required by the industry. With that, we will also look at various other sources, as well as validates with industry people, including IHL. Then we will actually push out this as a job skills insights to our partners, including the IHL. Okay. Oh, sorry.
No. I maybe just want to add a little bit because of the project that we're doing, so that Dr. Tang understands. Just very quickly, so we got into a collaboration with SSG as well as Pluralsight, CIO Academy, and we're trying to build this what we call National Tech Skills Barometer. Today, as it is, a lot of recruitment and of tech skills are done what I call in the blind, because you don't have actually an understanding of the supply and demand available in the industry. We are trying to do that with this project. So these are, if you're interested in that, I can take this conversation offline with you. But these are definitely one of the initiatives that SSG is helping in terms of trying to get more insights. Unless you know the supply and demand, how are you going to recruit properly? You see, so that's what we're trying to do now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Okay, the next question is from Kim Yen, which is about the skills for the citizen data scientists, people whose full-time job is not data science or analytics, example, HR, finance, executive, but who still need to work with and exploit data. So probably, I think this one, Damon, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, so this is just really citizen data scientists. Yeah, so the average. So it's like the person I was talking about earlier. So those different tiers of learning. So an organization recognizes that data is important, and they know data is their future. But how do they I guess, for want of a better word, exploit that data to bring more profitability or whatever their target might be. You don't want everybody to be a data scientist, right? So, but you like Kim Yang suggests here, how do you create, essentially what you want to do is you want to create an organization that has these different tiers. Everybody is a data steward, I would say, not a data scientist, a data steward. So they have an understanding of the data that affects their role particularly. So it's not a broad sweep. You're not just going to implement a big data program and everybody's going to go through it and hope that out the other side you're going to have these these data stewards or citizen data scientists. But the idea being is that their full-time job might be in like marketing or legal or finance or sort of corporate HR, whatever it might be. But they have an understanding of data and the impact of data. And it's really that impact of data which, from what I've seen, drives the need to learn. So once an employee understands the impact of data, the impact that has on an organization, on different sort of business goals or metrics, it's more encouraging for them, more motivational for them to learn, and they get an understanding of how to learn. So it's not what from an organization perspective, what you don't want to do is just push down, you need to do this, and there's no rationale for why. So once your employees ask, well, why? What's in it for me? What's the goal? What's the purpose? Once that is explained and that rationale, is articulated to the learners, you get far greater results, and you start seeing that transition from I just work in marketing to I work in marketing and I touch data, so I have a level 1 understanding of data, and then next year I'd like to get to level 2 and level 3, and one day I could be a data scientist. So it's that sort of journey that organizations are beginning now, starting on. And it's not an easy journey, just to point that out, because you have, and I can't share the name of the bank, but there is a bank that we're working with, and they have a few hundred finance professionals, and they are traditional finance people who have just used Excel for the last how many years. And as part of the bank's transformation, they are going on this transformational journey from suddenly having to learn Python, R, Alteryx, Power BI. There's all these tech skills suddenly that needed as part of their role, as part of that transformation that they're on. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they're loving it, but they recognize the importance of it, and they're in. So it's like one of those things that you're either in or you're out. And if you're out, you're doing something else, you go another job, career. But if you're working in the corporate sector, and even beyond the corporate sector, I mean, data touches everyone. You could be a farmer and still be using data day in, day out. So it's going to touch everyone. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but it's a big question. I don't think we have the time to explore the detail here, but yeah, I could keep talking, but I'm going to stop. Katie, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you've covered it. I think that's again, that's a challenge that organizations have today and so forth, because on this onslaught of data, and at least at certain quarters within an organization, they understand the need for data and the need for interpretation. And that really transcends all functions within an organization. And some functions are, of course, they deal with data. The question now is, how do you interpret data? So there should be some basic. And I think your example about the finance industry is great, because that's the one I think is at the forefront of this onslaught of data influx and understanding. So this is a challenge. But you have to start equipping your folks with some what they call data literacy. I mean, which level and so forth really depends on the function. And I think Damon said it correctly. I think the individual must understand the need for it, and they will do that. But the other aspect of it, which I think we sort of alluded to, but we never covered, but it's worth emphasizing, you must make those skills lessons available for them. One is to understand the need for it. One is to make them available. If you don't make them available, easily accessible, available to them, then it becomes a challenge. Even I may want to learn the certain skills, but I can't find the skills. I have to go HR to go and look for training institutes and so forth. So this is where I think the value proposition of a platform like Pluralsight does help. Does really help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Time really flies. We are now almost like past the 10:45. Okay, never mind. Let's take one more question from, let's take from Collis Lim. It's rather quite related. It's like for students in the IHLs, but not in the IT courses, example, engineering, health science, or science. How then do IHL prepare these students for the data-driven industry?
I'll just take a very quick 1 minute answer to that, and maybe Damon can add to it. I feel there's a couple of, in today's world itself, any parents with children would like to equip their children with the best life skills. And I call these life skills, they're not technical skills. And I think moving forward, the life skills that you need to equip your children with are mathematics, definitely mathematics. Let's not play two hoots about it, mathematics is cool. You need also to instill to them some coding skills. You don't have to be a prolific programmer that is on top of every language. There are programs, the 200 odd, 300 odd programming languages, but you need to understand how to code, because coding brings a sort of process thinking into an individual, and you need that today, especially if you're going to deal with data. Via process engineering, system process flow. And the third one, I would say, life skills in terms of user experience, UI, UX, and so forth. You need to understand what the consumer wants. If you don't understand consumer want, you can be the best technologist with the best technology, you're not going to fulfill any issues. So in itself, it's a different way of answering this, but basically I'm telling you, in the data-driven industry itself, you need some basic life skills. And these are basically, you need to put them at children at the education level. And when they get into industries and so forth, regardless of whether I'm in the IT or not IT area, I have those skills. I can manage data. Damon, maybe for you.
Yeah, I'm just going to say three things here. Number one, and this is just my personal opinion. Number one would be obviously logic. Katie just touched on logic. But don't forget, we're talking about, if we talk about those three high level roles, right? Creating data, managing data, analyzing data, different skills are needed, and your child or student or whatever may not be the most logical person in the world, but that does not mean they cannot be in the world of data or be a data professional to some degree. Communication, so there's logic. Communication, I think, is a key one. We often overlook the need for people to be able to communicate within IT. It's a common problem. You get a lot of technologists who lack the communication skills to translate or to converse, or the messaging. So somebody who's able to kind of see the data or speak the data to other parties is I think fundamental. And then other than that, I would say just maths, to Katie's point, is a key one, but again, not be an end all. Someone who is I call it patterns, but someone who's able to see the patterns in the data and storytell. So data visualization, storytelling in data, it's a big marketplace actually, and some people are just that's their job. They don't do anything else. So like I said earlier, it's a very broad spectrum of skills required, and a bit dependent on the organizational needs and goals. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We have come to the end of our Q&A session, though I would like the session to continue, but I believe, time constraint. So very grateful to Tian from CIO Academy Asia and Damon from Pluralsight for spending the morning with us to share their insights and answer to the questions posed. I hope IHL colleagues have a good takeaways from the session as well as I did, if not more. Okay. I would like to encourage IHL colleague to connect further with Tian and Damon after the sessions. We will be sending their email address to all, and also with us at SSG through ssgwebinar@gmail.com should you have pressing questions or need to raise. Today's webinar will be hosted on YouTube with the slide courtesy of CIO Academy Asia and Pluralsight, to be made available via email and platforms such as My Skill Future portal. We will email participants to inform and share in the next few days. We would also appreciate if IHL colleague could take 2 minutes after you exit that webinar to complete a short survey. Your feedback is very important to us, and it will be kept confidential, and it will also help us to improve our future webinar to serve you better. On behalf of SSG, CIO Academy Asia, and Pluralsight, thank you for supporting this webinar with your time, and I hope to see you virtually again soon at the next webinar in November. Thank you, and goodbye to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.